Hey friends, welcome back. It is once again a beautiful day here in this neighborhood. I'd like to show you something. These are all of my colored pencils. And in fact, I'm working on designing a cabinet that's going to hold all of my arts and crafts stuff. And I could really use your help with that today. That's what we're going to work on. In order to do that, we're going to need some wood. So I'll meet you over there at the wood pile. Wood comes from trees. This board used to be part of a tree. As a matter of fact, this board right here used to be part of a yellow pine tree. You can basically buy wood in lots of different squares and rectangle shapes because those are convenient shapes to extract wood from a tree. But they also sell wood in lots of other shapes, like sheets. This is part of a sheet of plywood. You can see how it's made up of lots of different layers. This makes it really strong. In fact, we use plywood to make lots of furniture and houses. Alternatively, this is a product called particle board. As you can see, it's little bits of wood that are squished and glued back together. Great way to recycle used wood. Alternatively, this is a special kind of particle board called MDF, medium density fiber board. It's basically very, very fine wood dust that is glued back together. And this is what I'm going to use to make my cabinet. I like working with this. As a matter of fact, last year I built an entire arcade machine out of MDF. I think that's pretty neat. And I like working with it, so this is what I'm going to use to build my cabinet. As you can see, there are tons of tools that we can use to work with wood, but in order to get started, we really only need a few things. Measuring tape. We need a nice saw that we can use to cut wood. You want something that feels sturdy and feels comfortable and fits good in your hand so that when you work with it, it feels safe. We need safety equipment, but we're going to talk about that in just a moment. We need some wood glue. It's going to look like this. I like Gorilla brand wood glue. Wood glue is really good at its job, and that is to glue wood together. The last thing you're definitely going to need is some clamps. Now, people got really far without fancy spring-loaded clamps, so even using some tape to hold your pieces of wood together while the glue dries, that would be a clamp. Anything that you can use to hold the wood together while it dries, while the glue dries, that's a clamp. Very important. You're going to see me use lots of different clamping techniques while we build this cabinet. Now, you can spend lots and lots of money on lots of fancy tools for doing lots of different fancy things. But 90% of projects that you can make out of wood, you can do with just these things. Measuring tape, some wood glue, a saw, and some clamps. 90% of woodworking projects you can do with just those items. But because I have a lot of practice, I'm going to use a few other tools today. Most importantly, I'm going to use this. This is a circular saw. As you can see, it's got a big blade on it. And we don't want to be afraid of the circular saw. Instead, we want to respect it. And in order to respect it, we need to understand how it works. So let me get some wood set up and we'll make some cuts together. All right, so this circular saw is battery powered, which means I put a battery in it. When I press the safety, there's a safety switch. And when I pull the safety switch and the main trigger at the same time, the blade's going to spin. Right, you remember our first episode? There's a motor in here, and that motor is spinning. Now our job is to line the blade up with our red mark so that we can cut a straight line following our mark. How can we make sure that our cut is straight? Well, one of the things we can do is we can line up a straight edge with this straight edge and go from there. Let's try that. Out of batteries. So what happened there? What happened there was that my circular saw ran out of battery. That happens sometimes. And so I had to switch to the handsaw. Now, I told you at the beginning that you can do everything that we're doing today with the hand tools, and I meant it. And so I did the rest of the cut with the handsaw. Would it be easier to use the circular saw? Yeah. But the handsaw is just as good. For bigger jobs, I like to use the power tools. It's a lot easier. But for small jobs, the hand tools, just as good. In fact, sometimes they might even be easier. I wanted to talk a little bit about woodworking safety. Eye protection, to protect our eyes. A mask, to protect our lungs from wood dust. We have plenty of light to work with, so I'm outside. It's not a particularly sunny day, but you get the idea. And then lastly, we want to make sure that we're fully present in the work. We want to make sure that we are actively engaged in what we're working on, so we're not distracted. We're not looking at anything else. We're not watching something on our phone. We are fully alive. We are fully present in the work that we're doing. That's going to be the best way that we can avoid accidents. It's being present. Most importantly, make sure that you have a friend or parent who's nearby, who you could call in the event of an emergency. And never use cutting tools without experienced adult supervision. I wanted to sit with you just for a second. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. How are you feeling? You know, as we continue our work here, it's going to be important for us to talk about our feelings. Did you enjoy our first episode? What would you prefer to see? What kinds of things would you prefer to talk about? How did you feel when you watched the first episode? Were you inspired? Were you disappointed? Those are all feelings that we feel often. And it's important for us to be able to share those feelings with each other. I feel very proud of the work that I did in the last episode. And I want to share that with you. As we go forward, as we continue our work, we're going to continue to talk about our feelings. And you may not feel comfortable sharing your feelings now, but hopefully in the future. So here are the plans for the cabinet that I've designed. As you can see from my drawings, I've drawn more than one view so that we can visualize what the cabinet's going to look like in real space. You can see all the different cuts I need to make on the pieces of wood that I bought. And I've even laid out how we're going to make the drawers. And I've done all the math I need to do before we start. So here are the drawer plans. As you can see, every drawer is going to have something different in it. For example, the Sharpies go in the Sharpies drawer, just like you see here. The colored pencils will go in the colored pencils drawer. These are the plans for that. The pencils will go in the pencils drawer. You get the idea. Friends, so what you just saw there was I was cutting all of this wood, and I cut it in a very special way. I cut it so that I can assemble all of my drawers kind of like a puzzle, and I'll show you what that looks like right now. Both of the sides have little grooves that allow me to slide in the fronts and backs just like this. Now we're gonna need some glue, of course, but you get the idea. And what this does is it allows lots of places for glue to hold on to the wood. And that makes my drawers very strong. Just like that, just like you see here now. This is what I'm going to do for all of the drawers. I'm going to glue them together and I'm going to let them dry. Now, this cabinet's going to have 14 drawers in it. And in order to make the drawers the way I want, I've got some other bits I'm going to show you. The first thing I want to show you is the drawer slides. These are metal pieces that go on the sides of the drawers, and this will allow us to slide the drawers open and closed. Right. Most of the drawers in your kitchen, for example, you use drawer slides to slide the drawers open and closed. This cabinet's going to be 24 inches deep, and so I got some drawer slides that are 20 inches long. Hopefully that will be enough. These are the other things I want to show you. These are the pulls that we're going to put on the fronts of the drawers. They're gold colored, and I think they're going to look really good on the fronts of the drawers, because the fronts of the drawers are going to be white. The cabinet's going to be purple, the fronts are going to be white, and they're going to have these gold handles on the front, so that we can take our fingers, put them in here, and then pull the drawer open. And I think that's going to look really good. The last thing I wanted to add to the drawers I don't have with me right now, but my dad gave me some pieces of carpet, and we're going to put carpet in the bottoms of the drawers so that our colored pencils and other supplies don't rattle around and make noise whenever we're pulling the drawers open and closed. We don't really want a lot of noise, especially because we're filming. We don't want a lot of noise as we go to get our supplies. So we're going to put some carpet down. Do you have a place where you live, where you can work? Do you have a table or a desk where you can make things? It could even be outside. It could even be at school. It really depends on the kinds of stuff that you want to make, but I think it's going to be really important as we continue our journey together, as we continue our friendship. I'd really like you to try to find a place where you can work on your projects, on the things that you care about. Got an email here from a viewer, and they want to know, Mr. Warden, what do you do for a living? Well, friend, I teach for a living. I'm a teacher. I teach older kids who are between the ages of 14 and 18, sometimes 19. And my job is to make sure that those kids gain the power that they need to be able to learn things on their own. I work at a school. I work at a special kind of school where I have my own workshop, a whole second workshop at the place I work. And I help kids build things and learn how to build things and make things and help them to realize what they believe in their hearts. That's what I do. That's my job. It's the best job in the world. In fact, that's why I'm doing this program, is so that I can bring some of that to people who don't go to my school, to people who live in other places, some other place, maybe even some other time if you're watching this in the future. That's what I do for a living. All right, welcome back. As you can see, I've assembled this drawer. This is the colored pencils drawer. And I've made it this big on purpose because I am a big person and I wanted a big drawer. Not only that, because of the size of colored pencils, we're going to need a big drawer for this guy. At the time of recording, I have made 6 of these. I need to make 14. Now, unfortunately, I don't think that we're going to be able to make all these on stream if we are going to get this episode released in a timely fashion. I'd like to get these episodes released once a month, which means that this video is going to have to do. So let's fill in the colored pencils drawer, and then we'll go ahead and say goodbye. In the future, I'm going to release a short standalone video that shows you the cabinet at its completion, and we'll go over some of the more fine details. Let's do that. my normal colors. I've got all of my fancy colors. I've got space for my sharpeners, and I've got lots of room for more stuff. And in the separate video that I make where I show you the final cabinet all put together, you're gonna see this thing full up with lots of interesting stuff. And I hope you check that out. I wanted to once again thank you for joining me in the workshop. I want you to know that I'm so proud of you for spending time with us and for making a choice to be curious. You know, I said at the end of last episode, I said, live the curious life. And what that means is that I want you to choose to be curious, to want to learn new things. And so as we end our time here today, I want to remind you to live the curious life. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.